I've never really been into aftermarket parts for skates. I cannot stand a skate that's Frankenstein, like a them skate with a razor's cuff, especially when it comes to aftermarket sole plates. The sole plate is a core part of the skate to me. If I don't like the sole plate on a skate, to me that just means I don't like the skate. I ain't gonna go out of my way to make it better. That is until I heard about the angled soles. They are the sole plate reinvented with some new angles on it to help you skate ledge better, skate rail better, and do cess slides better, as well as do groove tricks better. And it seems like a giant leap forward in the technology of sole plates. I just cannot believe it hasn't happened before. And lucky for me, angled soles sent me a pair for the them skates to try out, and that's what we're gonna be doing today. One problem though, I have had a pretty bad knee injury for the past 6 months or so, and I'm skating at about 10% my usual ability. And usually after a short session it hurts, but I'm going to try my best to try them out, let you know what I think about them. So there's a few things that I predict might be a problem with this sole plate design that I hope to answer today. And the first one would be that they're going to slide a bit slower than a usual sole plate. You know, normally on a normal flat sole plate, when you tweak it over, it's a very small bit of plastic that's touching the ledge. But on these, it's like you're not tweaking at all. It's like the whole sole plate will be touching, which should be more friction. So my prediction is they'll feel slower. My other worry is that they're going to feel a bit chunkier and kind of clunky and bigger than the normal them because the sole plate is a little bit bigger. Especially on turns, I'm a little worried that they're going to scrape when I turn. Apparently that's not a problem. The angle gives you more clearance than the normal them. I do also worry that rail and coping tricks are going to be harder due to the angle. It seems like the sole plate's going to feel smaller. And finally, just for me, I do worry that they're going to be harder on my knee because tweaking into a sole right now is super hard on my knee right now. It's kind of I have to do noob soles to be able to skate longer. So anyway, let's go find out and head to the skate park. Please note these are the version 2. They now are up to version 3, which they've slimmed the weight down a lot and the look of them down a lot to match more the them skate. So just my luck, first session back early in the morning, there's a bunch of skateboarders painting the bowl today. So I did not have the confidence to go talk to a camera in front of them today, so you were putting up with voice over me today. So first up, here's the look down of the new sole plates, and it definitely looks different. It's not the same kind of vibe as a stock them setup. It makes it a bit more modern looking. And I don't hate it. It's definitely different, but it feels kind of premium and nice. And I kind of like the change. But you should still know that this is the V2, V3 is slimmer looking. My go-to warm-up every time I go to the park is to go to the ramp and just roll back and forth for a bit. It seems to be the best way to get the knee moving so I don't tear it again. Definitely recommend it for everyone. But what I've noticed here in these first few rolls around is that they feel pretty much the same as a stock them. I don't feel any difference. I don't feel bulkier. I don't feel clunkier. They don't feel heavier. It feels just like the them setup. That is until I do a sweat stance stall here, and for some reason it felt easier and a lot safer than it normally does on a them skate. It reminded me of what it felt like to skate the SRs. There just seems to be a bit more room for error on the sole plate, which I'm definitely not going to complain about. That was great. These soles definitely weren't making it harder to do topsides on coping, at least at this stage. One downside I noticed though was when I went to do a grab air here, my hand actually slips off because there's less of a sole plate to grab onto. Very minor, stupid issue. You could definitely work on that and just grab a bit better, but it's something I noticed. So I'm not very good at skating quarter even when I'm at full health. So I just did some front sides here and they felt amazing. The sole plate obviously doesn't affect that too much, but they were sliding so nice considering I didn't wax anything. When I did this little sole grind here that I didn't commit to at all, that felt very normal. I didn't feel any weird differences for doing soles on the coping here. Which gives me high hopes for how these are going to skate. Sole grinds do happen to hurt my knee the most right now, which sucks. So now I'm all warmed up and the skates are feeling good. I'm liking them. There's no big downsides at this point, and a lot of the worries I had straight away are already kind of gone. But we've got to get to the most important test now, which is the ledge grind test, because that's what these sole plates were designed for. So doing the Mizu stalls here, straight away I didn't notice any big differences. Like the Mizu felt natural. I didn't feel like I had to adjust or anything, and it made me pretty confident that I'm going to be able to do these grinds pretty quickly. And when I got to doing the grinds, straight away I was surprised by the sound they make. These make quite a different sound, at least on this ledge. It makes a really cool grinding sound. It's one I've never heard before. It almost sounds like sci-fi, like a spaceship or something. I don't think you can hear it in any of the clips, which is a shame, but if I can find it, I'll show you now. What I noticed straight away though was that the grind angle was very natural to how I would normally kind of lean into a Mizu, but I was finding the ledge a little bit sticky here, which was one of my main concerns about the sole plate. But I do think it's just this ledge, no one ever waxes it. And like I said earlier, the skate park was filled with some skateboarders painting the bowl, so I wasn't about to go wax the ledge. Instead I just put a quick bit of wax on my frame and my sole plate, and after that they slid so well. And this is the best thing about aftermarket parts, is this material. I know this is a unique material, but it slides so much better than a normal plastic sole plate. It's got this new kind of smoothness to it that is so satisfying. It's like not too buttery fast. After skating these on the ledge, the biggest things I noticed was, one, it wasn't a hard adjustment like I was expecting. It felt very natural. It felt like where I would normally lean into a sole properly is right where this angle is. It's exactly where you want it to be, which did make it easier to more consistently get locked into the sole tricks, which I liked. It was kind of subtle though. It just made me feel like I'm better at skating, which I like. The biggest benefit I noticed though was in my switch sole tricks. They were so much easier to lock in. That's where I noticed it the most. I felt like I could sit in that groove a lot better on my switch foot, which is pretty useless at tweaking over into tricks, you know. And I do think that would be a huge selling point for these, as that would be a huge help to beginners who haven't learned or got the muscle memory or got the groove or the strength to really tweak in sole tricks. Having the platform there, I think will really help. And I think it's going to help me out a bunch with my switch tricks. But we've only done a few grinds here, so still a little bit to go. So the next big feature of these sole plates is they have a funnel backside plate, which is meant to increase the kind of area you can balance on, making it easier to balance on royales and backsides. Now, all grinds, but especially royales and soles are quite hard on my knee right now. And I tried it out, and it was pretty hard to do royales, but I think that's just because of my knee and I'm out of practice. And the royales I did get, they had a nice spot to sit in. And yeah, but I didn't ultimately feel too much difference in this first session. So if you don't know, my favorite trick is anything with a porn star in it. And my knee has kind of made it hard to do porn stars. But I wanted to see if I could land a nice porn star in this. And sadly, I couldn't. It was just not happening, man. I just couldn't do it. And I do ultimately blame it on the ledge. So if you don't know these ledges, I have to skate here. The big one here, the coping is too narrow, which gives it a really weird feeling. Because like usually where you'd lean into the ledge, you're leaning into nothing on this. It's almost like skating a rail. It's got the same kind of lock-in as a rail, but without the rail there. It's super bad, really weird, and it's probably not the greatest thing to test these frames on. So after just not being able to get a porn style across the whole thing, I decided to move to the smaller edge. Now it's also worth noting that the smaller edge also isn't great. It has a better size coping on it, like a more natural one that's not weird. But instead they put some bolts in that always get loose. They're just Allen keys, so you can screw them in and out. And they're right on where the sole plate where you tweak and put all your weight on a sole plate, which means it's going to be quite hard on the sole plate, probably scrape them up. But also it feels like skating a capped ledge. There's always some kind of chunk that you're going to hit, which sucks. I've complained about this a lot in videos. I still feel like no one understands, so no one understands my pain. Disaster actually struck again here because I decided to do every sole trick switch and regular, filmed on the Insta360 camera, and it crashed, and all the footage got corrupt. And the only way I can recover it is by paying for some recovery software, which is so not worth it. So instead, I just redid it, which is super bad for my knee. But yeah, here's me doing every sole trick, switch and regular, trying to do it in one try. So the only trick I missed was that switch port, and I'm telling you, that switch port feels like the knee destroyer right now. It's always been hard for me, and it makes me understand why it's hard for people to learn porn stars, but yeah, it's not worth the risk on my knee. At this point, my knee is feeling so toast, and we have a pretty important last test to do, which is the rail test. But before we do that, Hipskate actually sent me these sick little skate dice, and I thought it'd be worth a shot trying them out at the park today. Even though I probably can't do like any of the tricks on there, we're going to test my luck and see what I can roll. The funny thing is, I rolled a double freestyle straight away, which I thought would be pretty lame to just go do whatever trick I want. And luckily for me, the second roll was a true spin Mizu, which I was a little worried about doing on my bad knee, but we got it. So on the little ledge, I did notice a bit more about these sole plates that I do really like. Once again, these switch tricks feel so much easier to kind of tweak. I feel like I've never really been able to tweak them before, but when these sole plates, I can do it. It feels much more manageable despite the lack of strength in my switch foot. And in some of the lost footage, I actually tried doing some stalls on this ledge, and I really felt how much easier it is to stay and be stable in a tweaked in sole position. It is a huge difference. Like I can hold a sole stall and everything on this ledge so much easier and so much more naturally than I would normally in like a normal sole plate. And at the same time, this angle was exactly at the right point where I'd want to tweak. It's not like it's slightly off. It's right where I naturally would tweak any sole trick. And ultimately I was very impressed, and I'm really, really liking these so far. They're super fun. So at this stage of the session, my knee is like on its last limit, so I'm very limited on what tricks I can do. I've also got a lot more rail fear since I haven't skated this rail in like 6-7 months. So of course the first trick I do on it is a front side to get over that rail fear. And only me editing now realizes that the front side doesn't really do anything on the sole plate, so that's kind of dumb. But the front side was super fun and slid so nicely with no wax on this rail. And I'm the only one who skates this rail properly. I'm the only one who waxes it, I swear. And it was sliding good without wax, which I think will be a good comparison. Because lucky for me, sweat stances are pretty nice on my bad knee right now. It's weird, but that's the trick that I seem to be able to do, even though it was the first topside I ever learned, but it's definitely not my safe topside. I have almost no trust in it. With that being said though, the sweat stances I did on this rail felt very safe and felt a lot easier to do than they normally do. It felt a lot safer to do. It felt like there was a lot more room for error. And I definitely didn't feel any downside to the angles on these soles on rails. It felt normal and natural, and if anything, safer, which is very nice to see. And it was something I was kind of worried about because I love skating rail, and if it ruined rail for me, this product would be an absolute no-go. So despite the rail not being waxed, it was sliding so nicely in these soles that maybe because I waxed the soles, but I was very impressed with the sliding. It's like the perfect amount of smooth, like I said earlier. And here's where I noticed the first bit of kind of clunkiness to the sole plate that's added to the Hipskate, and that was as I come off this sweat stance here, I kind of click the two sole plates together when I land, which is something I've noticed on other skates, in particular the rollerblade blanks. When I skated them, I did the same thing on the same trick, I think, as well, some kind of topside jump out. And I have seen people snap the blank sole plates, I assume doing that same thing. And it is definitely something I've never done with the stock of them sole plates. I have no concerns that I'll actually break these sole plates doing this. And they feel so sturdy and like indestructible. And it ultimately is just my kind of clumsy skating where I kind of put my feet in the wrong position to land. So at this point, I really wanted to keep skating. I was having a really good time and I was enjoying skating these sole plates quite a lot, but my knee just wouldn't let me. It was done. And I'm editing this a few days later and my knee is still absolutely cooked from that session, which sucks. Did you get a lot shorter just then? Because I swear to God, you were like at least a foot taller a minute ago. I don't mean to diss your like height or whatever. Like everyone's welcome here in the buzzcut branding community, even though I don't have a buzzcut anymore. But I swear you were taller. But anyway, now to quickly answer those questions I had, the first prediction I had was that these were going to slide slower than a normal sole plate due to the extra surface area. Now I'd say that's not the case. These definitely don't slide slower than a normal sole plate, but I do think I'm going to have to do a bit more testing on some better obstacles to make sure that's the case. The second prediction I have was that these were going to feel a lot bulkier. And I say they don't feel a lot bulkier, which is very surprising. It's also, I got to mention again that this is V2, V3 is even slimmer. But yeah, the only time I noticed the extra bulk was on that last grind. And other than that, they felt fine. They have plenty of clearance for turns. I didn't scrape out at all. I'm very impressed. My third prediction was that rail was going to be harder. And that's definitely not the case. If anything, rail feels easier at my early days of just doing a switch stance. So yeah, it feels great. It feels like I have more sole to work with, and the angle doesn't seem to have any downside for skating rail at this stage. My fourth prediction was, is it going to be harder on my knee? I don't know if it's harder on my knee, but it's still hard on my knee, which sucks. Overall, I've had a really good time skating these. Fuck, you're looking tall now. What the hell happened? You must have put your skates on, right? Props, brother. At this stage, the biggest downside to these right now is the price. I think it is a shame that they're out of reach for the average rollerblader, and I do wish the price could be a bit lower, but I understand why it costs as much. It's an expensive product to make, sadly. I didn't notice any significant downside to skating these. They just felt like a big improvement on the normal sole plate, and I'm very happy and excited to keep skating them. We still have a lot of testing to do though, and I will be making a full review of these hopefully at some point. So if you want to see that, be sure to subscribe. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Massive thank you to my patrons for making this possible. Consider supporting me if you want some exclusive videos. I hope you get to go for a skate today. If you can go for a skate right now, here's your excuse to go do it. You won't regret it. And yeah, I'll see you in another video.